You are listening to Paris: A State of Mind on Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.
Welcome to Paris: A State of Mind. Join us as we talk about the good, the bad, the ins, the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. We'll have topics for renters, owners, and visitors, share questions we are regularly asked, and more. My name is Gail Boisclair of Perfectly Paris, and my co-host is Marie Pistinier of Lokim Paris. Be a part of it. Both of us are proud members of the SPLM, the first representative body of furnished rental professionals. We are back in the hot seat again, Marie, and back in the hot seat with Karim of Paris Suite Services. How are you, Marie?
I'm very fine, thank you. And how are you, Karim?
I'm great, thank you. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks again for coming back. I mean, it was super interesting, the podcast we did about cleaning, but we didn't touch on something very, very important as well, which is linked a little bit. You alluded a little bit to maintenance in the previous episode we recorded with you, but I think that maintenance deserves a whole episode on its own, don't you?
Yeah, because if I can go a little before Karim, because the maintenance is usually, we think about like little details, but in fact you have the maintenance that you have to do, which can be a bit different when it's a vacation rental, when it's a long-term rental, and there is probably things that you have to do like on regular basis, and I'm sure Karim can help us out on having a whole view of the maintenance, which is not only doing the joints of the bathroom and of the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gosh, I guess the big question is where do we start? I know from my perspective as a property manager, the thing is even if it's not a vacation rental, when there's a maintenance issue, it's really important to be very responsive because a little issue might be a very, very big issue. Like a clogged sink might end up being something that turns into a leak to the neighbor downstairs. So I guess the most important thing from my perspective to start with is being able to have the possibility to react quickly. Don't you think that's really important, Karim?
Absolutely. Being reactive is a key. I mean, if you have an apartment and you have no hot water, you can't wait 3 or 4 days for a plumber to come and tell you, oh, actually, it's an electrical problem, so you need to get an electrician to come. Or if you have a toilet blocked and it's the only toilet in the apartment and you have a family of 4 that is staying there, you have to be there the same day as soon as it happens in order to be reactive and repair right away or unclog or whatever the issue can be. And this is typically the type of thing that our clients like with us. First of all, we have most of the keys of the apartments we go in. So we don't need to wait for the guest or let's put it the other way. The guest doesn't have to wait for us and lose 3 or 4 hours of their valuable vacation time to let the technician in. So we can go assess the situation, repair right away, or go to the store, buy the spare part. I'm thinking about water tanks. That's fairly common issue in Paris. Hot water tanks, with the water being extremely hard in Paris, it clogs the resistance that produce the heat. And every time you want to have hot water, the fuses blows off in the entire apartment. And this is typically the type of things where we are super efficient. And we have several stores around Paris that we work with for several years. So depending on where it is, we can, and when we are called as well, we can do it right away, empty the tank, empty the 5 or 10 kilos of calcaire that is built up in the tank.
It's tartar, something like that? How do you call that?
Sediment, yeah.
And then put a new resistance and refill the tank, replug, and up water is working again. And typically, this type of intervention, if you call a plumber, he will say, you have to replace the tank.
Unless you have a very good plumber you work with who is very, very fair and trustworthy. And then it's true, like this is a typical maintenance people don't think about, like putting all the sediment away and making sure the resistance is okay. It's like a basic thing, but it could make your tank last much longer. So this is one typical thing that we don't think about. When you are doing vacation rentals and you do have like a client who is there for only 4 days, if you have like a tank heater problem, then it's a big issue.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And the list goes on and on. I mean, you were talking about the joints. It's part of the maintenance, but often, they want you to do the joints right away, and they don't think about the fact that you need a 24-hour window for the joints to dry properly.
We're talking about the joints around like a bathtub or shower, right?
The shower or the bathtub or around the kitchen faucet as well.
The silicone,
Silicone joints, And typically, we are able to synchronize it with the cleaning. So actually, we will send the technician before or after. So we know that the joints are going to dry properly and actually really do their job. And often people just do it like that quickly on a wet wall. And a month later, you start having infiltration and your neighbors knocks on your door. Oh, there's a water leak in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming from that. It's all the evacuations as well, like you mentioned, the toilets leaking. The list goes on and on and on. The maintenance can go from just changing a light bulb or changing a faucet or a toilet seat.
Or to clean the ventilation system.
Or to clean the ventilation, absolutely, yeah.
Usually it's a bit complicated to reach out, and most of the time it's then it becomes with the dust, and sometimes it's moldy, and so this is a kind of thing that you have to do regularly. But when you have a client for like a tenant for like 3 months, the guy is not going to clean the ventilation systems. You have to do it, like the agency or the owner have to think about having someone to do that on a regular basis.
Well, it's funny because I actually have, it's a long-term renter in the apartment, and she recently cleaned all the ventilation systems. And she said, well, I don't know. I think I've started a fan and I don't know how to stop it now. And I said, actually, no, it's automatic. And it means that there was so much gunk in there that you just didn't hear it. And now what you're hearing is a circulation of the air. But anyway, so it was kind of crazy. And she said, you're probably right. That's probably just because I explained that the vents are on an air shaft. So the noise she's hearing is not a fan turning. It's the air in the air shaft.
Yeah, talking about air vents, the maintenance is also to actually change the system of ventilation because often in Paris, it's connected to the light in the bathroom. So it only works. Those mechanical with the motor air vents only work when the light in the bathroom is active.
Right.
But in the winter, if you're taking a hot shower, you have all that humidity, and it's good to actually install one with a sensor of a humidity sensor. So it's actually keep working until there's no more humidity. And then simply by installing that, you're going to avoid mold on the walls, mold on the ceiling, having to redo a paint and so on.
Yeah, I think that people don't understand the importance of ventilation. And the problem is, at least in Paris apartments, a lot of times there's no window that you can open to get humidity out of a bathroom.
Well, the window is so hard to open.
Yeah.
That's also
exactly.
The maintenance part, especially now that we have heat waves and the wood grows bigger and you can't open the windows. That's also the type of intervention that we do. I mean, you have preventive maintenance like that.
Let me just explain to the listeners what wood grows bigger means. You're talking about just when the wood expands from the cold or the heat, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I do think all of those things are important. And as you said in the episode when we talked about cleaning, you said that a lot of the times the cleaners can notice these things if there's humidity somewhere or something that's not quite right. And I think that, like, for you as a company, do you have on staff a plumber, an electrician, or how does it work?
Yeah, I mean, those are actually employed and working exclusively for Paris Suite Services. They work year round exclusively for us. So, and they have been with us for years now. So not only they know most of the apartments, but even in new apartments that we can trust them. They can go to the apartment without the owners or the tenants being there. We have some owners that ask us to go every 2 weeks or once a month to their apartment to see that everything is fine, flush the toilet once, make sure there's no leak from the neighbors or that nothing is leaking, or to actually turn on the electricity, turn on the water tank, put on the heat because they're arriving in a couple of days. So they don't arrive in a freezing apartment, or to ventilate the apartments, because same thing, an apartment that is sitting empty for months, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I do think it's important to constantly do checks anyway. I know if for some reason I have something empty, I do tend to go and check it myself or send somebody to check it, because you never know.
Yeah.
And you never know with, unfortunately, water leaks coming
Yeah,
from
absolutely.
upstairs or leaking on someone else. It can be a whole story.
Absolutely. So it's really important the maintenance is not just to react at something, but it's also to anticipate. Also, and I'm more thinking about after a long-term stay for several years, or even after a high season of short-term stays, we also do a lot of like small renovation or even larger renovation. But on small renovation, we are going to repaint the walls where the chairs banged on, or where there is too many traces of suitcases on walls or on floors as well. Wood floors that has been really worn out. You need to refresh them. This is also the type of thing that we do, or a faucet that keeps moving because the system is too weak, or the countertop hasn't been treated properly. Especially, I have all those wooden countertops that really look nice, but do need us every 6 months a treatment. So they keep looking nice, and they do stay completely waterproof.
Yeah, I mean, I know I've got several apartments with wooden countertops, and they are definitely more difficult to maintain.
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. It's really an important topic. So, what about talking about the cost save, the money you can save on the owner side and on the tenant side with the very good maintenance?
Well, there's several aspects to that. We can talk about windows. We can talk about changing radiators to start with, for example.
This is a hot topic with the energetic performance. We had a podcast on this topic in particular, and yes, this is one of the main keys to save money in the end and to save the planet in some way. But yeah.
Yeah, for example, we work with a company that we have been using for a little bit now. And actually, not only they work extremely well, they're very professional, but they are extremely cost effective compared to other Windows company. And literally, we have several owners that ask us, like, can you get us 2 quotes? And the difference was like 25-30% between the two. Same quality of material. And so that's one part. The second part is as well with changing radiators to more efficient ones that are not just going to heat, but are going to stop and release heat without consuming electricity.
Like sensor activated heaters?
Yeah, either sensor activated heaters or simply radiators that are made of, finding the word in English.
It's like specific stones that keep the heat, and then
Exactly.
it's like not volcanic stone, but kind of thing like that, and then it releases the heat. Yeah,
Exactly. And rather than those toasters radiators
oh yeah,
that dry the hair and so on. So that's also how you can save money on the long run by changing those. And we also do these type of things, or simply using radiators with thermostat, with precise thermostat rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, where everybody is cold, so everybody put it at 6 and then shut it off when You would save electricity by putting it at 3 all the time with good windows insulation. It can also simply be repairs on existing windows because mastic is leaking or it's not properly sealed at the bottom and so on. So that's typically the type of maintenance we do. But it's also maintenance on painting. We were talking earlier about putting ventilation with sensors rather than ventilation simply connected to the light.
If you are enjoying this episode of Paris State of Mind, you may also be interested in our sister podcast, The Heart of You. Join Annette as she helps you explore your soul through intuition, spirituality, and more. Paris State of Mind will be right back after a word from our sponsors.
And now back to Paris, a state of mind.
Talking about the painting, sometimes owners are a bit annoyed after a few years of booking and say, oh, it's the tenant fault because the paint is cracking and everything. So can you share with us like your experience on how do you see the paints and how often you have to do it again and how this is like regular life, like paint life, if I can say so, that it's not always the tenant's fault or not even the air you put in the place, but sometimes just like the quality of the paint from the beginning and maybe how long it lasts?
Well, a good paint, and when we talk painting, the most important part is not the painting part. The most important part is before, which is a preparation of the walls. And this is where a lot of people, they rented the apartment several years ago and the paint is not nice. So what do? They take the weekend and they just put a coat of paint. And after 2, 3, 4 years, what's happening? It starts clogging and coming out from the wall. And it's not even the quality. You can do that with an excellent paint and you're going to have exactly the same result. Walls need to be prepared properly. So normally you have to, if the wall is in good shape, you need to wash it, to put a primer and then put 2 coats of paint. But if you have cracks, you need to open the cracks, fill the cracks. And this is actually what is a lot of sometimes owners see the quote for paint and they say, oh my God, this is so expensive. What do you mean? You need 4 days to redo a bedroom? Because the preparation takes a lot of time. It's not actually coming with a roll and just apply quickly paint in one way and then the other way and that's it, it's done. You will not get good results with that. You really need to prep properly. And we have a painter we actually have 2 painters in our team. And every time, I can understand owners saying, yeah, I just want a quick fix. And every time when they go to prepare the quote, they say, yeah, just do something they don't want to do it because they are real painters. And they said, no, this is not going to last. And after that, they're going to say, we do a bad job. A paint should last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I think with like legally an owner is obliged in a long-term, I think, contract to paint every 7 years. Are they not?
It's not really they are obliged to, but we consider that if someone says 7 years, or if we have several bookings up to 7 years, we consider that if the paint is damaged, it cannot be at all the tenant's fault. It has to be because we consider it lasts 7 years. Then sometimes it can last longer, but then so they are not obliged, actually. Maybe it would be nice sometimes considering certain flights, but they are not obliged to redo the painting, but it's more like, okay, they have to consider that it's not the tenant's fault. So, yeah.
Yeah, the tenant has a responsibility to fill the holes if they hang frames or curtain rods or what.
Which is complicated because when they do so, then after they pull the how do you say, the
anchor?
Yeah, and then they fill it eventually, but then the paint is never the same color as the things you put inside. So I have actually the same problem with the space where I have 2 or 3 different anchors that people have put on the wall. And then I don't know if I should leave them there and just have them pay for I mean, for the tenant it's complicated. Then I cannot have him pay for the whole paint of the wall. So
no, so all those maintenance things are typically things that we do, but it's also, I think often owners don't realize that they're going to have to spend money to maintain their property. you can have an owner that have €1 million apartment in Paris and is not going to spend €500 to change the kitchen countertop because it's €500. But you're losing the value of your property by not doing it, So,
and I also think, like we've talked about this in past episodes as well, too, that if a renter, short, medium, or long-term guest renter stays in an apartment and it hasn't been well maintained when they get in, what is their incentive to keep it well maintained after they are already there? I think partially in their mind, they're like, oh, well, the owner of this apartment obviously doesn't care, so why should I?
Yeah, and it's very complicated at the end to, for example, for the agency, I have that often, some apartments that are a bit old and the owner wanted to keep it slow with the expenses and everything. But at the end, when we try to do the comparison in order to give back the damage deposit and make sure that everything is fair, sometimes it's complicated to say, okay, if the wall were not that good, how can I, compare the thing and take money from the tenant? Because even some of the cleaning, if the owners at the beginning didn't want to have a deep cleaning, for example, the tenant, we cannot ask him to pay for a full cleaning at the end and like a deep cleaning at the end. If when he checked in, he had some, I don't know, like we said, how do you say, rabbit under the bed? We said, we said
dust bunnies.
Dust bunnies, yes, that's it. We said mouton, like sheep. But, yeah, it's a way to don't play small and don't go for the smaller quotation when you have to maintain, I would say.
Well, yeah.
The English has a very good saying, or at least an English friend of mine was saying that. He was saying, I'm not rich enough to take the cheapest option.
That's it.
Well, there you go.
You change the faucet. If you take the cheapest one, in 2 years' time, you're going to have to change the faucet again.
Of course,
yeah.
If you take a quality one, it's going to last for 10 years. So you're saving money actually by buying a better quality product. Yeah. And the same applies to maintenance.
No, I agree. But I think that we could go on for like hours about this because it's so complicated. But I think that we've given an idea to everybody the importance of maintenance. And Karim, your company, Paris Suite Services, what's your website?
ParisSuiteServices.com.
Voila. In case somebody wants to contact you, interested in a quote for cleaning, maintenance, otherwise.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again. And it's been really great and informative. Don't you think, Marie?
Yes, it's amazing. As we said, like we can keep on like with example for hours on that. It's like one of the mandatory things that we have really to pay attention to, like for tenants, for owners, and also for agents. So it's important. Thank you again, Karim.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for inviting me again.
Our pleasure, and maybe we'll invite you another time. We have to think of another topic.
Yeah, I'm sure we have plenty.
We can find so many.
I know. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Paris, A State of Mind, featuring Gail of Perfectly Paris and Marie of Lokim, both who are founding members of the SPLM. Paris, A State of Mind is produced by Paris Underground Radio. The music, Jazz in Paris, is by Media Right Productions. For more information on this show and others, go to parisundergroundradio.com.
This episode of Paris, A State of Mind was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio. For more great content, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/Paris Underground Radio.